in a bright cartoon kingdom called Luminara, where rooftops shimmered like painted candy and clouds drifted slowly, as if they had all the time in the world, there lived a princess named Elawan. She had golden brown hair that curled like ribbon and dresses that sparkled in shades of blue and silver. From far away, people believed she was perfect. From closer up, they noticed something else. Princess Elawan loved beautiful things, shiny things, and most of all, herself. Elawan lived in a tall palace filled with mirrors. Mirrors in the halls, mirrors in the rooms, mirrors even on the doors. She liked to stop and admire her reflection as she walked, tilting her head this way and that, practicing smiles as if they were part of her royal duties. If a servant complimented her gown or her hair, she smiled warmly. If they didn't, she frowned and walked faster, the sound of her shoes echoing sharply through the halls. She believed kindness was something others should give her, not something she needed to give back. The people of Luminara loved their kingdom. It was colorful and calm, filled with music, laughter, and gentle magic. But when it came to their princess, they spoke in whispers. "She has a good heart," they said softly to one another, hoping the words would someday become true. "It's just hiding." One sunny afternoon, Elawan wandered into the palace garden. The garden was magical in its own quiet way. Flowers hummed gently as if they were chatting with bees. Leaves sparkled with tiny drops of light. And the old stone fountain sang soft, watery songs that echoed like lullabies. Elawan carried her favorite golden ball, smooth and glowing like captured sunlight. She tossed it into the air and caught it again, laughing to herself. Enjoying how it reflected her smiling face, she stepped closer to the wishing pond, a place many villagers visited with hopes tucked into their pockets. Elawan didn't believe in wishes. She believed in getting what she wanted. She tossed the ball higher this time. It glittered beautifully in the air, but her laughter stopped when the ball slipped from her hands, bounced across the grass, and rolled straight into the pond with a quiet splash. Elawan gasped. She rushed to the edge of the pond and looked down. The water was deep and dark, dotted with floating lily pads and tiny sparkles of magic that drifted like stars. Her precious ball was gone. "This is awful," she cried, her voice trembling with frustration. Absolutely awful. She stomped her foot and crossed her arms, her reflection in the water looking just as upset as she felt. Someone should fix this right now. A small ripple moved across the pond. Then another. The water bubbled gently, and suddenly a little green frog popped up onto a lily pad. He wore a tiny crown made of reeds and flowers, and his eyes shimmered with kindness and curiosity rather than fear. "Good afternoon, Princess," the frog said politely, his voice soft but clear. Elawan jumped back, startled. "A talking frog?" she said. "How strange. What do you want?" The frog bowed as best he could on the slippery lily pad. "I noticed you dropped something important into the pond. I can help you retrieve it." Elawan's eyes lit up immediately. "You can get my ball?" "Yes," the frog replied with a gentle smile. "But I ask for something in return." Elawan sighed dramatically, already impatient. "Fine, what is it? Gold, jewels? A room in the palace?" The frog shook his head slowly. "No, Princess. I wish only for kindness. Let me be your friend. Let me sit with you, talk with you, and share your meals from time to time." Elawan wrinkled her nose. "That's it? Friendship? How silly." Still, she wanted her golden ball back more than anything. Without much thought, she waved her hand. "Very well," she said quickly. "I promise." The frog's face brightened. He nodded happily and dove into the pond with a small splash. A moment later, he surfaced, carefully balancing the golden ball on his head. He pushed it toward her with a proud little hop. Elawan snatched the ball without another word. "Thank you," she said, already turning away, the sunlight gleaming off the ball once more. "Wait," the frog called gently. "You promised." But Elawan was already walking back toward the palace, her steps quick and careless. "I promised, yes, yes," she said over her shoulder. "We'll talk later." She never looked back. That evening, Elawan enjoyed a grand dinner in the palace hall. Colorful banners fluttered from the ceiling, and lanterns glowed like fireflies trapped in glass. Music floated softly through the room, as plates overflowed with sweet rolls, fruits, and warm soups. Eloan laughed as she ate, completely forgetting about the frog and the promise she had made. Then there was a soft knock. Tap. Tapped the room. Fell quiet. Another knock followed. Just as gentle tap. Tapped out a guard opened the door. And there stood the little frog, damp and hopeful. His tiny crown slightly crooked, but his eyes bright. "I have come for my promise," he said kindly. Eloan stared at him, her cheeks growing warm. "You can't be serious," she whispered. The frog hopped forward. "You said I could be your friend?" Eloan glanced around the hall. Everyone was watching. She felt embarrassed, her smile stiff and forced. "This is ridiculous," she muttered. "A frog at my dinner?" But the frog's eyes were gentle, not angry. Just a little sad. With a strained smile, Eloan sighed. "Very well. Sit there," she said, pointing to the edge of the table. "But don't make a mess." Frog hopped up and sat beside her plate. He spoke softly, asking about her day, the garden, and the stars that shone above the palace at night. Eloan answered with short replies, barely listening. She nodded when needed, but her eyes wandered. She was annoyed and uncomfortable, counting the moments until he would leave. Later that night, when the palace grew quiet and the candles burned low, the frog followed Eloan down the hallway. "Good night, princess," he said gently. "May I rest here, as friends do?" Eloan turned sharply. "Absolutely not," she cried. "This has gone too far." She grabbed a pillow and pointed firmly toward the door. "Out. Now." The frog's smile faded, but he did not argue. He bowed once more, his crown slipping slightly, and slowly hopped away, his shadow stretching long and lonely along the hallway floor. That night, Eloan dreamed of mirrors cracking and golden balls sinking into endless water. She reached out again and again, but nothing came back to her. She woke with a strange heaviness in her chest, a feeling she didn't recognize, and quickly brushed it away. Days passed. The palace felt quieter. The garden's flowers no longer hummed as brightly. The fountain's song sounded softer, almost sad. Eloan still had her golden ball, but it didn't shine. Morning light spilled softly over the kingdom of Luminara, brushing the rooftops with warm gold and gentle pink. The towers shimmered like painted sweets, and ribbons of mist floated lazily between them. Birds fluttered from balcony to balcony, singing cheerful songs as shopkeepers slowly opened their doors and swept their steps. It was the kind of morning that usually made people smile without thinking. High above it all, Princess Eloan stood by her window, holding her golden ball, but no longer tossing it into the air. She turned it slowly in her hands, watching how the sunlight danced across its smooth surface. Once, this simple sight had made her smile without effort. Now, it only made her feel quiet, as if the ball carried memories instead of joy. Her room was still filled with mirrors, tall and wide, framed in silver and gold. They reflected her crown, her dress, and the light streaming in from the window. But Eloan avoided looking into them. Instead, her eyes drifted toward the garden below, where the wishing pond shimmered like a piece of the sky resting gently on the earth. The pond seemed calm, but it glowed softly as if it held secrets beneath its surface. Her thoughts returned to the frog again. As they had so many times since the night before, she could not forget the frog's eyes. They had not been angry. They had not begged. They had simply looked tired and hopeful, like someone who believed in goodness even when it hurt. That look followed her now, sitting heavily in her chest, making her feel uneasy in a way she had never felt before. Eloan sighed and pressed the ball to her heart. "It was just a frog," she whispered to herself. But the words felt thin and empty, as if they did not believe her either. She knew she had said those same words before, trying to excuse herself, trying to feel better without changing anything. This time, they brought no comfort. Below her window, the garden stretched wide and colorful. The flowers swayed gently and the fountain sang a quiet song. The wishing pond shimmered under the rising sun. The water looked calm and peaceful, but something about it felt alive, like it was gently calling her name. Eloan did not decide to go there. Her feet simply carried her, one slow step at a time, down the palace halls and into the open air. She walked more slowly than usual, passing servants who noticed the change in her expression. No one spoke. Even the palace itself seemed to sense something different, as if the walls were listening. When Eloan reached the pond, she knelt at its edge and stared into the water. The reflection looking back at her felt unfamiliar. The smile she used to practice did not appear. Instead, she saw a princess who looked unsure, almost small, like someone seeing herself clearly for the first time. "I didn't mean to be cruel," Eloan said softly, her voice trembling. No one else was there to hear her. I never thought about how my words feel to others." The pond rippled gently, spreading outward in soft circles, as if it were listening and responding. Tiny sparkles drifted beneath the surface, catching the light. A small lily pad floated closer to the edge. Then another. The water bubbled quietly, and the familiar little frog appeared once more. His tiny crown sat neatly on his head, but his eyes were cautious now, like he wasn't sure if he was welcome. "Good morning, Princess," the frog said quietly, his voice calm and steady. Eloan gasped and stood too quickly, nearly losing her balance. She steadied herself and looked down at him, her heart racing. "You came back," she said, surprise and relief mixing in her voice. "I did," the frog replied. "Not for the promise, just to see the pond again. It feels safe here." Eloan swallowed, her throat tight. She knelt again so they were closer. "I was unkind to you," she said, the words tumbling out before she could stop them. "I used you to get what I wanted, and then I pushed you away. I didn't even think about how it would feel." Frog tilted his head gently. "That made me sad," he said honestly. "But sadness can teach us things, if we listen to it." "I don't want to be that kind of person," she said. "I don't know how to be better yet, but I want to try. I truly do." The frog studied her face carefully, as if looking past the crown, the jewels and the shining dress, and straight into her heart. After a long moment, he nodded. "Trying is how change begins," he said softly. They sat in silence together. The garden seemed to breathe around them. Flowers leaned slightly closer, their petals glowing brighter. The fountain's song grew warmer, like it was pleased. Even the breeze felt gentler, brushing softly against Eloan's hair. "Eloan," the frog said, after a moment, "there is something you should know."
Oh.
Before he could say more, the air shimmered. A soft glow rose from the pond, wrapping around them like floating light. The frog's crown began to glow brighter, and the water sparkled with colors Eloan had never seen before: soft blues, warm golds, and gentle pinks swirling together like a dream. "This magic awakens when promises are tested," the frog explained calmly. "Long ago, I was placed under a spell. Only true kindness could break it." Eloan's eyes widened, reflecting the light. "Kindness," she whispered. The frog nodded. "Not kindness given for reward, not kindness out of duty. Kindness given because the heart has learned to care." Eloan felt warmth spread through her chest, slow and steady. Memories rushed back to hurt times she had turned away. Moments she had ignored others' feelings, smiles she had taken without returning any. Tears slipped down her cheeks, surprising her. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice shaking. "Not just to you. To everyone I forgot to care about." The light around them grew brighter, then softer, wrapping them like a gentle hug. Eloan leaned forward and placed a light, caring kiss on the frog's forehead. It was not rushed or dramatic. It was quiet, sincere, and full of meaning. The world seemed to pause. The glow swirled faster, lifting gently into the air. The frog closed his eyes, and the light shimmered around him. When it faded, a young prince stood where the frog had been. He had kind eyes, soft brown hair, and a calm smile that felt familiar, as if Eloan had known him for a long time. Eloan gasped, her hand flying to her mouth. The prince bowed respectfully. "My name is Alric," he said, "and you have freed me." Eloan stared at him, then laughed softly through her tears. "You were a frog yesterday," she said, amazed. And you were someone who didn't believe in kindness, Ulrich replied gently. We both changed. Word of the magic spread quickly through the palace and the town. Bells rang softly, and people gathered with smiles and wonder. But Alain did not rush to the mirrors or enjoy the attention. She stayed in the garden with Ulrich, listening to his stories and sharing her own. For the first time, she listened more than she spoke. Days passed, and the kingdom noticed the difference. Alain greeted servants by name. She thanked them sincerely. She listened to villagers' worries and celebrated their joys. Laughter came to her more easily now, not because she was praised, but because she felt connected. The mirrors still lined the palace halls, but she no longer stopped at them. One afternoon, a child dropped a wooden toy near the palace gates. Before anyone else could react, Alain knelt, picked it up, and handed it back with a warm smile. The child's face lit up brighter than any jewel. Ulrich watched her, pride shining in his eyes. You changed because you wanted to, he said. Alain shook her head gently. I changed because someone showed me patience when I didn't deserve it. As the sun set over Luminara, the garden glowed brighter than ever. The fountain sang joyfully, flowers hummed, and the wishing pond shimmered with peaceful magic. Elowen stood beside Ulrich, holding her golden ball loosely at her side. It still shone, but it no longer mattered as much. What mattered was the warmth in her heart, steady and real. And so, in a kingdom painted with color and light, a selfish princess learned that the most powerful magic of all was kindness freely given. And a simple kiss filled with sincerity truly changed everything.